On Sunday, October 19th, 1986, barely 2 years after the launch of Newswatch, Nigeria's first news magazine, its editor-in-chief, Dele Giwa, was gruesomely assassinated with an unprecedented letter bomb at his home in Lagos. He was just 39. To this day, Giwa's killers remain unknown, and his family and loved ones are yet to get justice. Although without a pint of royal blood, Sumonu Ola Dele Giwa was born in a palace, not just a palace, but that of the Ooni of Ife, Oba Sir Adesoji Tadeniawo Aderemi, as his father worked there. Of Onwo, Edo State origin, Giwa was born on March 16, 1947, to Musa Giwa and Elekiya Aisat Giwa in Ile-Ife, then western region of Nigeria. Dele Giwa had his primary education and secondary education at Ile-Ife, present-day Osun State. In his third year in secondary school, he became the founding editor of the school's bi-monthly magazine, The Torch. Though he wanted to become a medical doctor or chemical engineer, his teacher encouraged him to study English language. However, because his parents were poor, he could not seek admission to higher institutions after he completed his secondary education. In 1966, at the age of 19, Giwa worked as a clerk with Barclays Bank for 5 months and later at the Nigeria Tobacco Company (NTC). Thereafter, he moved to the news department of the then Nigeria Broadcasting Corporation (NBC), now the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria (FRCN). In 1971, he enrolled at Brooklyn College, New York City, United States of America, to study English. After his graduation, he enrolled for a master's degree at Fordham University, where he also concurrently worked as a desk editor with the New York Times until 1979, when he returned home and began work as features editor of the Nigerian Daily Times in April 1979. At the Daily Times, he established Art Life and American File columns. He also wrote press snaps and parallax view columns every week. In 1980, Chief Moshood Abiola poached him to work for him in his Concord group of newspapers that he had just set up and was made the pioneer editor of Sunday Concord. With the Concord, Giwa had just one column, Parallax Snaps, a combination of the two titles under which he wrote in the Daily Times. In 1984, Giwa, along with Ray Ekpo, former editor of the Sunday Times, Dan Agbese, editor of the New Nigerian newspaper, and Yakubu Mohammed, editor of National Concord, founded a news magazine called Newswatch. Dele Giwa became editor-in-chief of the magazine, and the first edition was distributed to the public on January 28, 1985. This ushered in the era of real and investigative journalism in Nigeria. Newswatch was a bold and untried venture in Nigerian journalism. The magazine was too hot for the government to handle. It was a magazine that would dig so deep in its gathering of information and publish without trepidation that it became a pain in the neck for both the Muhammadu Buhari and Ibrahim Babangida-led military regimes. On Thursday, October 16, 1986, 3 days before his death, Giwa was interrogated by officials of the State Security Service (SSS) over a column he wrote on the introduction of the Second-Tier Foreign Exchange Market (SFEM) by Head of State General Ibrahim Babangida. Giwa had argued in the column that SFEM must succeed, or else those in government would be stoned in the streets. Giwa was also questioned by Colonel Haliru Akilu of the Directorate of Military Intelligence (DMI) over his relationship with some people dealing in arms importation. The next day, on Friday, October 17th, he was invited to the headquarters of the SSS at 15 Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos. He was accompanied by Ray Epo, but Giwa was the only one taken into the director, Ajibola Kunle Togun's office. There, 4 allegations were leveled against him. First, Newswatch was planning to write another side of the story on Ebitu Ukiwe's removal as Chief of General Staff to General Babangida. The magazine had published a cover story titled "Power Games, Ukiwe Loses Out" in its edition of October 20, which had been on sale on October 13, 1986. Second, Giwa promised to defend Aloze Ogugbuaja, a superintendent of police and spokesman of the Lagos State Police Command, who had accused soldiers of negligence during a students' riot that took place in early 1986. Giwa was also accused of holding discussions with the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC), Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU), and the National Association of Nigerian Students (NANS) to carry out a socialist revolution. Finally, he was accused of planning to import arms into the country for the revolution. In 1984, the Muhammadu Buhari-led military government issued Decree 20, which stated that any person who, without lawful authority, deals in, sells, smokes, or inhales the drug known as cocaine or other similar drugs shall be guilty and liable on conviction to suffer death sentence by firing squad. Therefore, on April 22, 1985, a certain Gloria Okon, whose real name was Chinyere, was about to board a Nigeria Airways flight at the Aminu Kano International Airport, Kano, when she was apprehended and arrested with substances suspected to be heroin, which weighed about 57 grams, and other drugs, as well as local and foreign currencies. Gloria Okon was reported to be a drug courier for Babangida and his wife, Miriam. However, a top official in the military government put Chinyere on the next available flight from Kano to London and then claimed that she was dead by parading a dead woman picked out of the mortuary. Dele Giwa was said to have later found out that Gloria was in London having delivered a baby by another man. He sent a French photographer to the place and they saw Miriam Babangida at the event. Kayode Soyinka brought back the photographs to Giwa's house in Lagos. After the whole ruse, General Muhammadu Buhari on August 5, 1985, reportedly set up a judicial commission of inquiry to investigate the arrest and death of Gloria Okon. The report of the investigation was expected to be brought in at the end of the month, but it was a fruitless journey. It never saw the light of the day as Buhari was toppled by Ibrahim Babangida in a military coup 22 days later on August 27, 1985. So, end of the investigation, end of the case. Kayode Soyinka, Newswatch magazine's London bureau chief, had brought back the photographs a French photographer had reportedly taken of Gloria Okon. It was a Sunday morning of October 19, 1986, and they were about to have their breakfast. They had looked at the pictures, and then Dele Giwa's first son came in with a parcel, addressed to his dad and meant only for him. It was not a strange thing, and it wouldn't be the first time that he would receive such. In fact, he had received a phone call from Akilu some 40 minutes before he received the parcel that allegations against him had been dropped and the matter resolved. Minutes later, Giwa was with a letter bomb which was delivered by some unidentified people who gave it to the security man, who in turn gave it to Dele for onward transfer to his father. The only witness to these events, Kayode Soyinka, before the bomb exploded, had alleged that the parcel had a label with the seal of the Nigerian president and that it was from the office of the president. Albeit, neither the security man who got the letter nor Dele, who delivered it, were able to corroborate Soyinka's claim. Giwa was said to have been excited when he received the parcel, that it must be from Mr. President, referring to the discussions he had with Babangida days earlier. He put the parcel on his lap, and as he tried to open it, the bomb exploded and blew up his upper legs and badly affected the lower part of his body. The noise threw Soyinka on the floor by the exit door, and he became momentarily unconscious, but later regained consciousness. The noise was deafening, and everybody came rushing to the scene. On getting there, Dele Giwa's wife and neighbors saw him sprawled on the floor in the pool of his own blood with his charred body. He was rushed to the First Foundation Hospital, Okwebi Road, Ikeja, Lagos, and there he breathed his last. While in transit to the hospital, Giwa kept moaning the words, "They have got me." Who he referred to as they remains a riddle to this day. Throughout the tenure of Ibrahim Babangida, under whose watch the cruel murder occurred, the police and other security apparatuses expressed helplessness, repeating their familiar words of "no fresh leads. We have no clues yet, but we are still on it." The case file of the slain journalist remained open for several years, with the police, like the Godots, awaiting information from the public that could lead to the identification of Dele Giwa's killers. On July 3, 2001, at the Human Rights Violation Investigation Commission, also known as the Oputa Panel, to investigate human rights abuses, which sat for 2 years and 11 months, Abubakar Tav, a former commissioner of police in Lagos who was in charge of the Dele Giwa's assassination case, accused the Babangida-led military regime for shielding Giwa's killers. Tav also said the police were not given the free hand to interrogate those he believed were suspects, and that he believed Dele Giwa was killed because he was in the way of some powerful forces. On October 19, 1986, at about 12:27 p.m., somewhere at First Foundation Hospital, Okwebi, Ikeja, Nigerian journalist Dele Giwa uttered the final words, "They got me," which he had been saying en route to the hospital. Giwa found himself in that hospital after he received a letter bomb, which he thought must have been from the president. Nearly 40 years later, the question is still being asked: who killed Dele Giwa?